Aldi has sold off a portion of the business it had acquired from Southeastern grocers while also announcing plans for more than 200 store openings in 2025. Wow. According to Grocery Dive, Aldi has sold Southeastern Grocers and its Winn-Dixie and Harvey's supermarket banners to a consortium of private investors led by Anthony Hucker, the current president and CEO of Southeastern Grocers, and C&S Wholesale Groceries, according to a Friday announcement. Terms of the deal were not disclosed. But Aldi is selling roughly 170 Winn-Dixie and Harvey's supermarket stores to the consortium, along with Winn-Dixie's liquor store business. However, the discounter does still plan to convert 220 Winn-Dixie and Harvey's stores it previously acquired into Aldi locations. Hopefully, you're still following along. Finally, in addition to its Southeast expansion, Aldi says it will add its footprint in the Northeast and Midwest regions, grow its presence in the West and with more states in Southern California and Arizona, and enter new markets such as Las Vegas, with aims to grow its store count by more than 220 stores in 2025. Chris, even Grocery Dive made notes in their article that this is very complicated and they are changing details and editing details by the moment. So on top of that, though, this is also the question that A&M is going to use to put you on the spot today.
All right, 8 a.m. in Vegas, Ann. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So A&M wants to know, Chris, in addition to your thoughts on all the goings on at Aldi, while Aldi's strategy and approach here is very interesting, we'd like you for a moment to think about the C&S side of the deal. Given they were also recently in the market for Kroger and Albertsons stores, seems they have been keen to get into retail on a larger scale. What does the move say about the potential evolution of the traditional grocery wholesaler relationship? And do you expect similar moves going forward for more control of the value chain? Chris, the floor is yours.
Oh my God. Whoa. All right. All right. So first of all, it's a great question. And like you said, there's a lot to this headline, and there's the Aldi side, and then there's the non-Aldi side, which is what I think, A&M's getting at. So I'm going to tackle that. I'm going to try to tackle this off the top of my head in two parts. First, I do want to cover the Aldi side, because I think that's the important part of the headline for our listeners. And then I'll get to the C&S side, which is what, A&M's asking about. So, first, what stands out to me is how smart this move is from Aldi. We got an inside look into how Aldi was thinking about all of this, all the complexities related to this acquisition. Initially, interviewed Dan Gavin, the VP of National Real Estate at Aldi, last retail spaces. It was a great conversation. And in that conversation, I know you and I were both struck by how thoughtful Aldi was being around thinking about its prototype expansion. Like Dan was he was very transparent. He's like, some of these stores are easy to convert. Some of them aren't. They're not in great locations. They're not doing the volume necessarily we need. So, when I look back and I combine this with, all these growth plans and how underpenetrated they still are in some of these markets, like it seems like a really shrewd move to divest what you don't want to have anymore. So, so I see this headline in total as the makings of a retailer that will scale by doing what it does best, which is leveraging the prototype that it knows that will work, right? And so we talk a lot about retailers like trying to push water uphill. This is the exact opposite of that, which is why I think it's something you've got to watch. So it's a testament to all these overall value consumer propositions. So now back to the question at hand, the put you on the spot question from our friends at the A&M Consumer and Retail Group. C&S wholesalers, yes, they seem if you look at their activities over the last couple years particularly, they seem keenly interested in owning and operating their own retail grocery stores.
Yes.
So I do think we're going to see more of this. It seems like an approach that others are taking as well. Spartan Nash particularly comes to mind. I'm guessing you're thinking that based on your response. But with all that said, there's always a but, and it's a different business model. So running a grocery operation is very different than being a distributor. And I used to work with C&S back in my day running frozen food at Target. So it's a very much more complex task. It might seem like there's all these economic advantages, but it's also a difficult and touchy business running a grocery store. We know there's not a lot of room for error. So I'm curious to see how C&S makes it work in the long term, especially given the fact that Aldi is basically saying, hey guys, you can have these stores back.
Yes.
So So I think that's a particularly interesting thing here. Like, it's kind of careful what you want or what you ask for here, C&S. I don't know. That's my answer. There's a lot going on there. So, so Anne, I'm curious to hear
Yeah.
what.
Well, I think the key thing here, I completely agree with what you were saying, the Spartan Nash example, the freeing up capital and those and getting rid of those stores that are more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is Aldi is playing chess here. They know the game. They are doing such a good job.
Yeah.
They are, I think the other component here that Dan Gavin mentioned, like you said, there's a lot to bring some of these Winn-Dixie, especially the Winn-Dixie and Harvey's, like to the Aldi level. Aldi is a great shopping experience. Like they invest in like a great design, store design, and they invest
They know
in
what they
great
are.
own
Yeah.
brands. Yes, they are going in, they're rinsing, repeating, they're giving people convenience. Also, like they're partnering with Instacart. They're thinking about all the components of a great grocery store experience,
Mm-hmm.
not just like, oh, hey, I need a store in that location. Let's just slap a new banner on it and let's just rinse and repeat. Like Aldi is on a mission to completely dominate, especially 225 stores that they're opening just this year. Like they are so strategic,
Yeah.
so smart. And this, I think, sale will help them really be laser focused on the remodels that they'll have to do and then expanding to some of these other geographies. I think that's the other thing here too that kind
Yeah,
of gets
100%.
buried in the details. Like this is also going to allow them to expand to the Midwest more quickly, like to find exactly as you said and what Dan Gavin said, the right stores to either be remodeled or new greenfield projects that they're going to be able to take on. And I think this is just Aldi is on fire right now, and you really have to watch them. There's no shame in shedding the dead weight. So I'm excited to see where Aldi goes, and if they hit these 225 stores, that's
Yeah, right.
crazy.
I know, it's nuts. Yeah, I remember that conversation from Retail Spaces. And honestly, fans, if you haven't listened to that conversation, you should look it up on our podcast channels. Just look up Dan Gavin, Aldi, Omni Talk Retail, and you'll find it. But yeah, I mean, I was sitting there listening to him. I'm like, dude, you are the right man to run
Oh
a
yeah.
real estate strategy, particularly for a grocer. You know every angle that you need to consider and think about. So
Well,
yeah.
and especially just like the humility of it. Like they don't care. They're not like puffing their chests like we made
Mm,
this investment. We're going to go do it. It's like, no, this is wrong. We're going to cut it. We're going to go and move
yeah.
forward. And like, if you're going to be a successful retailer, especially in the grocery space right now, you have to have that mentality, I think.
The other thing I don't know about, but I'm curious about, is like how much of this was worked out in advance too, as in part of
Yeah.
the initial deal. Like, because all the same players are involved in here. You have the same CEO running this consortium, the former CEO of Southeastern Grocers running this consortium.
Yeah.
So who knows?